Hello and welcome back to Suburban Hunt 365. I'm DJ and we are back in the reloading room again today. And in today's video we will be continuing on with our muzzleloader series here on this channel. For those of you that have been with us for a little while, you know what the pellet test is, and that's exactly what we're fixing to get into. But today what we are doing is the requested 338 grain Powerbelt Platinum. That's what we're getting into today. So, just to cover a few of our basics here, guys. For those of you that haven't been with us, we will be using the Federal 209A primers as we go across all of these. We will be shooting at a target at 100 yards. So, as you guys know, the Powerbelts have been okay, kind of really. There are some that really don't care for the Powerbelts. But in previous video, we did one for the ELR. That one actually has done pretty well as far as accuracy goes, and I watched a buddy of mine, Jared, this past deer season hit one. Now he's running a 45 caliber, but he hit one with an ELR, and it was a pretty decent wound channel, and deer didn't go very far. Now this is a bigger Platinum, and I'll show you with the back of the thing here. It resembles the same old coppers. There's not a lot of difference there, except it's in Platinum. So, does the Platinum versus the copper really do anything for us? That's kind of what we're here to find out. So, for those of you that haven't been with us, we're going to be going through the pellet test. That is the 777 pellets, 100 and 150 grains. The Pirate X, 100 and 150 grains. Then we're moving over to the White Hots, also 100 and 150 grains. Then we'll go to the 777s, Fire Stars. Now these are 33 grain pellets, so we're going to be running 3 pellets for the 100, and we're going to be running 4 pellets for the higher velocity, which is actually closer to about 120, a little over 120. And then finally, last but not least, we will be running the 777 Magnums, which are the 60 grain pellets. We'll be running 2 pellets of those. So that is our test. That's how we're going to do it. Again, we are running the Federal 209A primers at 100 yards. So let's get into it. First up, 777 100 grain pellets. Alright, not a bad way to start this out. That group is a 3.5 inch group. You can tell by our velocities. Our velocities are a little bit lower than I expected. I kind of contribute that to a heavier projectile. 338 grains is pretty good amount of weight to be pushing down there. So 1381, 1385, and 1463. It's a little bit slower than I really care for. And again, these velocities are out of the muzzle. So, but as for our accuracy test, that was a 3.5 inch group. So not a bad start to the day. So let's go ahead and let's move up. As you guys may or may not know, my gun typically likes the 150 grain charges. They just seem to be work better. So 777 150 grains. Alright, 777 150 grains actually coming in just under that 3.5 mark. This one actually came in at 3 3/8. So just an eighth difference. I mean, it's right there on top of each other. But we do have a little bit higher velocities at 1730, 1750, 1718. Now, for those of you that realize that, wait a minute, this series still says 1 on your velocities there, that's because I forgot to switch the series. But those 3, so if you're looking out there at the min, max, and average, those are going to be skewed because it's still considering the 100 grains and the 150 grains the same series. So mainly focus on the actual shots of the 1730, 1750, and the 1780. Given the fact that that is a 3 3/8 group, which is kind of what we've seen overall, is where my gun rests. It's about a 3 inch kind of gun, it seems like, across anything that we've had so far. But focus on that. So if I had to choose between the 100 grains and the 150 grains, given that they're an eighth of an inch difference, I would definitely be swinging the 150 to get that extra kinetic energy downrange. So, moving on from the 777s, let's go ahead and let's move into the Pirate X 100 grain pellets. Ouch! Alright, that That's not going to work. That's a 7-inch group, and again, this is at 100 yards, guys. This is, like I've said before, groups like this are reminiscent of the early Power Decks loads that I've tried. 7 inches is definitely not going to get it done in any way, shape, form, or size with these Power Decks. But you're looking at the velocities with this. It's 1485, 1443, and 1566. So you saw the last one did kind of pop up higher, but 7-inch group, guys, that's rough. That is definitely rough. All right, so let's go ahead and, again, the 150s tend to do better. Let's see if we can get the Power Decks to kind of pull away from that pretty abysmal group. So, Power Decks, 150 grains. Okay, so the 150 grains brought us back to where we were before. That group that you're looking at there is a 3 3/8 of an inch group. So kind of like what we saw with the 777s. So without a doubt, hands down, if I'm running the Power Decks with these Platinums, you have to run 150. 7 versus 3 3/8, that is a no contest in anybody's book, right? So 150 grains, bring it back down to the 3 3/8 of an inch. So let's go ahead and let's move on and let's see if the White Hots can do anything for us. White Hots, 100 grains. All right, how about that? The White Hots coming out strong with a demanding lead for the day. That's a 1 1.5, or a 1 1/2, however you want to say it. It is a 1 1/2 inch group at 100 yards. That's only with the 100 grain pellets of White Hots, guys. That's 2 pellets. So, but even then, you look at these velocities, they're higher than the last 2 that we tried with the 1517, 1493, and then 1501. So the 2 pellets of White Hots are moving pretty quick, even with this heavier projectile. So that's pretty good. So far, White Hots 100 grains is in the lead for the day. Let's see what happens when we add that extra pellet. White Hots, 150 grains. All right, that's not terrible, but I thought we were doing pretty good with those first 2, and that last one kind of jumped on us. Which is, if you're looking at those velocities, it's kind of backwards, because you got 1836, 1836 to the same velocities twice in a row, and then 1816 with that last one, but it also jumped up a little bit. So 3 1/4 inches is what this came in at, which is not going to touch that 1 1/2 inch group that it just did with the 100 grains. So there again, guys, faster is not always better. That's just how it is sometimes with your gun. So again, all these test groups are simply what I have in my rifle. You'll have to get out and test yours. It may like the 150s better, but mine definitely prefers White Hot 100 grains. So far that's in the lead right now. So let's move over to the newer pellets, the 777 Fire Stars. Again, this is 3 pellets because of 33 grains a piece. Let's see what 3 pellets Fire Stars can do for us. Oh, there we go. All right, so the Fire Star 3 pellets coming in and tying with our White Hot 100 grains with another 1 1/2 inch group. So White Hot's 100 grains, Fire Stars 3 pellets, 1 1/2 inch group. Not too shabby, not too shabby at all. So with that, we're looking at the 3 pellets of a velocity of 1583, 1578, and 1532. So the 3 pellets of Fire Stars are moving a little bit faster than those White Hots are, but there again, it's at a velocity that I think is high enough to where now I'm getting into the fact that I'm using 2 pellets versus 3 pellets. So you kind of have to give and take on that, but there again, it depends on what it does in your rifle. So we got a tie for first. Let's see if 4 pellets makes any kind of difference. Fire Star, 4 pellets. All right, there. All right, that ended up coming in at a 1 7/8 of an inch, so just under that 2 inch mark with the 4 pellets of Fire Stars. So 3 pellets and 4 pellets of Fire Stars are doing pretty well. Pretty well. I would have to say so far with this, I'd be grabbing the Fire Stars and those Platinums and heading out, zeroing in my rifle and going to the woods. The velocities on this one though, we got 1801, 1798, and 1758. So we got a little bit higher velocity, right? And we've got a fairly comparable group to the Firestar's 3 pellets. So honestly, there again, with those velocities within the ranges I'm going to be shooting at, the kinetic energy, they're about the same. So it's really a toss-up of whether I'd use 3 or 4. Honestly, if I was running it, I'd probably use the lower 3 just because use of materials. But there again, at the end of the day, those white hots are always tied first, and it's only 2 pellets. So kind of take that for what it's worth. But we have one more to go. Let's see if the 777 Magnums can do anything for us. And again, this is 2 pellets. Alright, well, 777 Magnum's not really doing a whole lot there. That is a 4 5/8 of an inch group. While it's not the biggest one today, because obviously the biggest one was a 7-inch group with the Pyrex, a 4 5/8 of an inch group isn't going to cut it with the 777 Magnums. So today's test, we're got a tie with the white hots and with the 777 3 pellets. There again, if I had to choose one between the two, even though it's a little bit lighter, it's comparable velocities on the white hots as the 777 Firestar with 3 pellets, I'm going to run the white hots because of material. I got 2 pellets versus 3 pellets, and from what I've seen in the stores, those Firestars are a little bit more expensive. So with everything equal, spend less money, right? So, alright, so let's go ahead and let's dig into these numbers on this chart. Alright, so digging into this chart here, you see that we do have the 338 grain platinums, and we move over to the far side here, and we come in at an average of 3.333, and it just kept on averaging out the threes. That is going to come in 14th place. That is 14 out of 16 projectiles that we have ran so far. So let's go back over here to the left side and let's go ahead and run through these real quick. We had the 777 100 grains at 3.5, the 150 grains at 3 3/8, the Pyrex at that abysmal 7 inches, the Pyrex 150 at 3 3/8. Then we got our tied winner here, the White Hots 100 at 1.5. Then the 150 grains at 3 1/4. Then also again tied is the 777 Firestar 3 pellets at 1.5. Then not too bad, but just a little bit over that is the 777 Firestar 4 pellets. And then over on the 777 Magnum 2 pellets, the 4 5/8 of an inch. So I have to say, with that, looking at that 7-inch group with the Pyrex, that is really hurting our average on this one. So again, yours may do better with that, but that was a pretty rough group as far as the math is lining up here. So scooting down here to our actual chart, you can see that our most accurate projectile so far is still the 340 grain bore driver by Hornady, the ELDXs, and then down there at the bottom at the 14th, you see our 338 grain platinums, and so far the worst group that we've had is the 240 grain XPTs. So 14th, not awesome, not awesome. That's actually the worst Powerbelt so far. But guys, you gotta look down there at the spread. There is 1.86 inches that separates the best from the worst. Okay, so that's not a terrible lot. That's just really not. So let's get over here to our powders. So the most accurate powder is still the 777 Firestar 3 pellets, and then the White Hot 150 grains moved up 2 spots this week. Then the 777 150 grain pellets stayed the same at 3rd, and then we've actually got a tie for 4th with the Pyrex 150 and the White Hot 100 grain, which the White Hot jumped up 3 places this week, which is pretty awesome. And then you got 777 Firestar 4 pellets that moved up 1 spot. The 777 Magnums went down a spot, and because of that abysmal showing this week, the Pyrex 100 grains dropped 6 places. But it was still not enough to be the worst, because the 777 100 grains, it's still almost got an average of 3 inches. You can look up there and see the 2.984. So, but then there again, guys, looking down here, we got a spread of 0.531. So just barely over a half an inch spread between the best and the worst average on the powders. So the powders are pretty good. Just gotta, what projectile do you like? What projectile is going to work best out of your rifle? And then once you get your accuracy, then we can start discussing kinetic energy and whether it actually works as far as the expansion goes. So a lot of guys talk a lot of crap about the power belts, and I get it. It's not unjustified. But again, last year I watched a guy bring in a deer. Jared brought a deer back with the 45 caliber ELRs in power belts, and it was a pretty nasty exit channel. So you can't, especially these new ones. The ELRs, you can't dismiss those. All right, guys, if you stuck with us this far, I can't tell you how much I truly do appreciate you hanging out with us as we go through these different tests. If you haven't already, do me a favor, hit that like button, let the algorithm know that you enjoy this kind of content. Hit that subscribe button, it really helps us out, guys. We're really doing well on that aspect. And do me a favor, as always, the best way that you can help me is, let's talk about it down in those comments. Let me know what you think about this kind of content, whether you agree with me, disagree with me, what your loads are, what your combos are, what you would like to see, whether it's a power belt or not. Throw it down there in the comments. Let me know your feedback, because I love hearing from each and every single one of you. I do read them all. I may not respond to all of them, guys, because we're growing and these comments are coming pretty quick, but I do read them all. So from Suburban Hunt 365, I'm DJ. I appreciate you guys, and we will catch you on the next one.